page number 156 of this small pink book, which is called Ved Panchashati. And this mantra number 47 is from Atharva Ved. Yatha dhyam cha prithvim cha antishtathi tejnam eva rogam cha asanvam cha antishtu manch it. जैसे आकाश और पृथ्वी के बीच प्रकाश अथवा तेज व्याप्त है, उसी प्रकार किसी भी रोग और घाव को ठीक करने के लिए शरीर के भीतर स्वास्थ्य प्रदायिनी शक्ति मुंज नाम से व्याप्त है। अर्थात मनुष्य शरीर की आंतरिक शक्ति से ही हर प्रकार के रोगों से मुक्त हो सकता है। भीतर सबके देह में शक्ति एक व्याप्त मुंज नाम है, वेद में करती रोग समाप्त। उसी शक्ति के कारण सब हैं जीव निरोग, मानव ध्यान न देता तभी सतावें रोग। बहु सतावें रोग हैं शक्ति जन के मांझ, औषधि का सेवन करें प्रातः से ले सांझ। रोग होए या घाव हो मुंज करत निरोग, निज सृष्टि में ईश ने रचा विशेष सुयोग। देखें ईश्वर की प्रभुताई, हर एक रोग की रची दवाई। एक दवाई सब रोग नशाए, जन हर एक मुंज से सुख पाए। Let's do
Hersh,
our
what is munj?
What is munj?
Munj is that power in us which heals us. Heals us. It's a healing power.
So how do you get it? I mean, like,
how do you get it? It's already in there. First we got to believe in it. Then we got to eat right, exercise, keep the body clean. Okay, that Shakti is already there, the healing power. जिसको वैसे ordinary भाषा में immune system भी कह देते हैं. Don't we say that develop your immunity? These days क्या कहते हैं? From the COVID, make sure that you are taking vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D, right? Keeping your nose clean, your throat clean, do the gargles, take the steam, all those things. Because that power is inside us. We are just helping by maintaining our system properly. Okay? It's already in there. See, just in this explanation of this mantra, Guruji said ghav. So whenever we have some kind of a cut in our body, if we just clean it and leave it alone, it just takes care of it by itself. But normally we just want to do too many things on it. कोई बीमारी भी होती है, we want to take too many medicines right away. We are making our own immune system weak. Let the body heal by itself. Body has that power. Okay? Just do the proper things. You remember what तीन चीजें जो हमेशा मैं कहती हूँ? Exercise properly, eat properly, and clean properly. Okay? These three things are like a basic, that's how we take care of our body, and mind also the same thing. Mind also, clean the mind, exercise the mind, and nourish the mind. So when we come to these classes, what are we doing? We are nourishing our mind. When we do Swadhyay, we are nourishing our mind. When we are meditating, we are exercising our mind. Right? So, and when we are trying to stay away from the negativity, we are cleaning our mind. Okay? So, Munj Shakti is already there. Okay?
Thank you.
Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhu Bhuva Swaha, Tatsavitra Varenyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Asto Ma Satgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityurma Amritam Gamya. Om Sahna Vavatu, Sahna Bhunaktu, Saviryam Karvavahi, तेजस्वी नावधीतमस्तु मा विद्वेषावहे. Om Shanti 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 Om. Last class, couple of weeks ago, we finished on verse number 65. That's where Ashtavakra ji is saying, blessed indeed is that knower of the self, who with his mind free from thirst, even though seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, or eating, remains the same under all conditions. So he's calling this kind of a shishya, or this kind of aspirant, a dhanya, blessed, because this is what we need to do. Okay? Remains the same under all conditions. So while doing all the activities, all the actions, all the karmas, all the duties, but mind does not waver. He lives fully but freely. Freely. So if you don't have any question, I'm going to start with verse number 66. Kva sansaraha, kva cha abhasa, kva sadhyam, kva cha sadhanam, akashasya eva dhirasya nirvikalpasya sarvada. Kva means where, sansar, the world, abhas, appearance, sadhyam, the goal, the end. And goal is over here, liberation. Sadhanam, the path, means or spiritual practices. Sadhanam, sadhana, right? Akashasya ev, like the universal space. Dhirasya, of the wise one. Nirvikalpasya, changeless. Sarvada, always. So where is the world and where is its abhas, appearance? That means its ego. And where is the end? And where are the means? For whom? The wise one. Okay, so he's talking about the Dhir Purush, the wise Purush, the wise one, who is ever changeless, like the universal space. Okay, so this is in connection with what he was telling us in the last verse. So that his mind is ever stable. Okay. So we got to remember that early seekers should not quote this verse. Otherwise, they will drop their practices. This is true for the person who's already established in the self, who has already achieved the goal, that where is the path, where is the sadhana, because it already reached there. So remember that these verses are not addressed to the early seekers. They are addressed to a student like Janak, who is on the outermost verges of the finitude. But still he is hesitating to step into the realm of the infinite. So he's like towards the end of that journey. And he has had the glimpse of the goal, but hasn't stepped into the goal. So to him, there is no world of objects, nor is there in him an experiencer of the world, which is ego. He has already achieved the goal, and therefore he has no more any goal to gain, no more an end to achieve. It's almost like you can say that he has ended all his limitations. Or the example which Ashtavakra ji used before, the pot has broken and the pot space has become one with the eternal universal space. So all the limitations have been dropped. Or another example he has been using, the wave. The wave has merged in the ocean. The pot has been crushed and has become the mud. or the dreamer has awakened. All the dreams they have rolled away into the wakefulness. So the liberated in life is the supreme self in action. So he's doing all the actions, but not getting disturbed by it. No change. Manhood has ended in godhood. Okay, this is how the godly people, the divine people, they live in this world. So manhood has ended into godhood. And that's what our goal is to all of us. Not just only for Janak, not just only for few handful of people, but all of us. But how soon we reach there, it's up to us. So we are still on the path. So we should not just read it from the here that no path, no goal. No, we are still on the path. Okay. स जयति अर्थ सन्यासी पूर्ण स्वरस विग्रह अकृत्रिमः अनवच्छिन्नः समाधि यस्य वर्तते. So means he jayati. Jayati is like when we say jay, or some people say hallelujah. Jayati, hail. Arth sannyasi, who has renounced all desires. We are talking about the desires at the worldly level or any other desire also. Puran Swaras Vigraha, who is the perfect embodiment of all bliss. Puran Swaras, your own joy, not a ras from the objects, but it's a ras of the subjective ras, who is the perfect embodiment of all bliss, which is his own nature. See, Vigraha means embodiment. Puran means perfect, complete. Swaras is his own nature. So that's why if you look at the whole thing, Puran, Swaras, Vigraha, who is the perfect embodiment of all bliss, which is his own nature. Akritmaha, spontaneous. Anavachene, in the unlimited. Samadhi, absorption. Yasya means whose, Vartate means is. So, hallelujah to him who has renounced all desires. So, this great Rishi is hailing to this kind of a person who has removed all the desires, renounced all the desires, who is the embodiment of perfect bliss, which is his own nature, and who is spontaneously absorbed in the unlimited space. Over here, this unlimited space means the Brahma, unlimited. Even the serene tranquility of the revered sage Ashtavakra, from this verse you can see that he got that emotion of adoration and love for a student like this. So hail to this kind of a student, he says, Sajayati. So he's almost crying, Jay, Jay. So this is a victorious person who has freed himself from his ego shackles. And he is experiencing his immutable divine glory, boundless peace. That's what this is, Puran Swaras Vigraha. So in this phrase, you can see the beauty of this realization, where the meditator is not separate from the meditated, where the subject has merged in the object of contemplation, the Vigraha, where the river has ended into the ocean, fully absorbed. So this is called the merger of the individuality with the universal reality. And at this level, it's effortless. That's why he used the word spontaneous over here. Akritrim. You don't have to do anything for it. Initial practices, you have to do something. Initially, you got to make yourself do certain practices. But to reach here, this is spontaneous. So this is what this akritrim means. You don't have to do anything for this. So merger of the individuality with the universal reality is effortless and spontaneous. So almost like somebody is building a house, they have to put the plumbing also, to put the wires also, make sure there's a proper connection also. But when we want the light in the house or the water in the faucets, what do? Hardly any work. Just touch the switch. Okay, so same thing over here. When we do our initial sadhanas, whether it's at the level of Hatha Yoga or whether the Raj Yoga, whether we are learning something, but ultimately Samadhi will be spontaneous. Spontaneous. So this great awakening into the spiritual experience is automatic and very natural. This is the most natural thing. Everything else is unnatural. Absorption of this soul with the super soul is the most natural. Absorption of the Ansha with the Anshi, that is natural. Separating from it was unnatural. Going back is very natural. No strain or struggle in it. Because all the efforts which we made, ego is making the effort. So when we end the ego, efforts have ended. Because mind has weaned away from the sense objects. So remember that effortlessness, spontaneity of the final stage of self-realization, we will study in Vivek Chudamani also. Towards the end of the scripture, verse number 533. Over there, Shankaracharya ji will tell us that the clear knowledge, which is independent of everything, is like you know your name. He uses the name Devdatta. He says, Devdatto aham iti etat vijnanam nirpekshmam. See, just like you know that this is your name, the same way you will know that you are Brahma. Tadvad brahmvido apasye brahmaham iti vedanam. He says, similar is the case with the realization in the knower of the Brahm that I am Brahm. Just like right now we know. Very spontaneously we know. Anybody calls by my name, I'll turn around. I could be sleeping and somebody says my name. I will wake up because I know, identify myself with that name. The same way, spontaneously, we will know all the time, I'm nothing but Brahma. That's where those Upanishadic terms, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvam Asi, those rishis in the Samadhi, when they got out of Samadhi, they just shouted those Mahavakyas loudly. Okay, so this is what we are learning in this verse. This is what will happen. Then he says, Bahuna atra kim uktena gyat tatvaha mahashya bhog moksha nirakankshi sada sarvatra nirasaha. Bahuna means many, much. Atra means here. Kim means what to use. Ukten, by saying. Gyat tatvaha, who has realized the truth. See, tattva means the truth, the essence. Gyat means who knows it. Mahashya, the great souled one. Bhog, moksha, nirakankshi, free from the desire of enjoyment and liberation. So, no desire at all. No desire for this world or afterwards. Sada, at all times. Sarvatra, in all places. Nirasaha, devoid of passion. Ras, nirasa. In short, here there is no need to stay more. The great souled one who has realized the truth is free from desire for sense enjoyments and for spiritual liberation. He is devoid of all passions, in all places, sarvatra, and at all times, sada. So it's not only one, sometimes, not only some places, all the times, and in all places. So Rishi Ashtavakra is summarizing what has been said so far in this chapter. He must be feeling that he has not completely expressed what he wants to. So that's why, in a way, he's summarizing his thoughts. All the masters, all the great scriptures, they follow this method. Vedas do the same thing, Upanishads do that, Bhagavad Gita does. We always see that few verses and then summary of the verses. So that's why, in short, here there is, he says, no need to say more. So that really means that those who have purified their inner equipment, what has been said so far is more than sufficient. And to others who have not purified themselves, any amount of discussion will not bring even a glimmer of understanding. Okay? So this is not an expression of a teacher's despair, but it is an open confession that language is utterly incompetent to communicate this knowledge. So whatever has been said, if a person is following it, will get to it. Cannot explain any more than that. The intellect of the listener is no vessel to receive what the teacher wants to give. So bottom line is that liberated in life is free from desires. So we have to reduce our desires, both from the sense enjoyments and for the spiritual liberation. We don't want to have a constant frustration about the moksha also. No frustration, just do your sadhana. Get rid of the desires as much as you can. So he is indeed devoid of all passions at all times. Over here, passion means the rajsikta. When we have the desires, there's a raj that enters into our mind. So under all circumstances, passions and desires are the attributes of the ego. So we got to let go of melt this ego away. So a person who has transcended the ego is calling that person a mahashya. There's no outgoing tendencies, because outgoing tendency is the nature of the mind. But this mahashya, he has already transcended the mind. So this is the point he's bringing to. Number 69. Mahadadi jagat dvaitam nam matra vijivritam vihaye shuddha bodhase kim krityam avshishyate. Mahad adi. Beginning with mahat. Mahat is the total intellect, mind and intellect, total, cosmic. Jagat dvaitam, pluralistic world. Nam matra vijrivitam, manifested merely by name. Nam Matra. Vihai, renouncing Shuddha Bodhasya, one who is pure consciousness. Kim means what? Krityam, to be done. Avashishyate, remains. What remains to be done by one who is pure consciousness? Pure consciousness means the Atma. What is there to be done for the Atma? Because Atma doesn't do anything. What is to be done? He has renounced the pluralistic world, which begins with the Mahat and is manifested merely by names. So the entire phenomenal world of the polarity is the expression of this Mahat, macrocosmic intellect. That's how it's translated in English. In Sankhya philosophy, this Mahat word is from Sankhya philosophy, macrocosmic intellect. According to this philosophy, Prakriti is the material cause. Okay, so from the Prakriti, this Mahat comes. So it's like an evolvement of the Mahat is from Prakriti. And from Mahat, in a very logical steps, the ego comes out. So the very first thing is Mahat, then the ego, which is called Ahankar, then the mind, then the five organs of perception, which are called Gyanendriya, then the five organs of action, the Karamendriya, then the five subtle elements, Tanmatras, then the five gross elements, Mahabhuts. So, but the origin was what? The primordial Prakriti. From the Prakriti came all of this. These are called the evolutes of the Prakriti. So by the combination of all of this, the different proportions, the world of polarity manifests. This is what we are made of. We study in Bhagavad Gita also the same thing. We study in the Bhagavad Puran also. Okay, the Sankhya philosophy is mentioned in the Bhagavad Puran, Mahat and all the evolutes. So it's almost like you have a gold. What will goldsmith do? He will beat that gold, the bar of gold. Out of the bar, he will pull out a wire. From the wire, he'll cut it into bits. From the bits, he will hammer them into tiny rings and make them into a chain. From the chain, he will make into different ornaments. But what is it? All of it, all different kind of ornaments, whether it's a ring or a necklace or a toe ring or bangles, they are nothing but gold itself. The same thing is over here also in the Prakriti. The whole phenomenal world of polarity is the expression of the Mahat. So phenomenal world of polarity is nothing but the, and where did the Mahat came from? Prakriti. So it's nothing but the expressions of the Prakriti. All the rest is nothing but mere distinction in the names. And that's what he is saying over here. Nama matra vijribitam. We only call them rings or the toe rings or the bangles or the chain. But it's nothing but the gold. So all of it's nothing but Prakriti. It is the ego in us. Through the mind and the sense organs, we perceive this multiple things over here. Sometimes we call them objects. My objects, your objects. Or we call them emotions and the thoughts also. They're all nothing but Prakriti. But the liberated in life is one who has transcended his ego and has awakened to the reality, the self itself. Vihai Shuddha Bodhasya. From this standpoint, where is the world for him? He knows that this is all Prakriti. What duties can bind him to the world? There is nothing to be done for him. That's why Vihai word is used over here. And there is nothing for him to achieve. Because this is a supreme state of fulfillment, experienced as the self. He has already done all that is to be done. Nothing more to achieve in the world of names and forms. It's almost like if I'm dreaming and in my dream I see that I have to do certain chores, marry my daughter. When I wake up, there is no daughter to do the marriage of. So this person has woken up from the polarity. So in this context, he's talking about a person who has already reached there. Already reached there. So the liberated in life with perfect detachment watches like a parade of the world. Okay, that marches in front of his awareness. It's a parade is going on. You're only watching. You are not taking any play in it. Brahma bhutam idam sarvam kinchit na asti iti nischay alakshe safurna shudha swabhaven eva shamyati. Brahma bhutam, produced by illusion. Brahm is the illusion. Idam means this, sarvam all, kinchit anything. Na asti, na means not, asti means exists. Iti, nishchay, iti means thus, nishchay means knowing with certainty or certitude. Alakshya safurnaha, to whom the imperceptible is revealed. Alakshya safurnaha, shuddha, the pure one. Swabhaven, naturally. Ev means indeed, shamyati, becomes tranquil. The pure one knows with certainty that this universe is the product of illusion and that nothing really exists. The imperceptible self is revealed to him and he naturally becomes tranquil. Shamyati. Okay. So that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It still exists, but he knows that this is an illusion. Anything which keeps on changing, in reality, it doesn't exist. So he knows. And how did it come about? After the direct experience of the self. Because there is not even a trace of doubt in his mind. Because he has actually woken up. When I fully am awake, I know the dream world did not exist. It was only the dream. So such a wise man continually experiences the effulgent self. Okay, so over here, remember the experience does not mean that the self is an object. It's not experience of the object. It is the absolute subject. It can never be an object. Because object can be perceived by the body, mind, or the intellect. But the subjective experience is by dropping those equipments. So that's why he keeps on telling us that self is the final and the only subject. And over here he said, imperishable self. So knowledge of the self is not emerging out of the activities of the sense organs, mind and intellect. It's a realization. The ego disappears into the vision of the reality. With this realization, the individual becomes pure, completely free from his ignorance of reality. So that's why we normally say that self-realized sage is one who has ended the non-apprehensions of reality. See, non-apprehension of the reality is what? Ignorance. In the direct experience of the imperceptible. See, this is what this word alakshya safurna, imperceptible. Something you really cannot perceive with your senses, but it's revealed to you at a higher level, imperceptible. So then that's why Rishi Ashtavakra is concluding in this verse. He says, naturally he becomes tranquil because all the agitations, they are, which are called disturbances also, they arise either from the body or the mind or the intellect. All the disturbances. Those are the three places where the disturbances come from. And our ego wants to own those disturbances, good or bad. That's why it's called ego, identification with something which is temporary. So this Mahashe, or a wise person, transcending these equipments, has revealed in the blissful life. Blissful. Naturally, he says, it becomes tranquil. See, Shuddha Swabhaven Ev Shamyati. Shamyati. And we are familiar with this word, Shamyati. Okay. Shuddha Sufuran Rupasya Drishye Bhavam Apashyatah Kva Vidhi Kva Cha Vairagyam Kva Tyaga Kva Shama Apiva. Shuddha Sufuran Rupasya, of the nature of pure effulgence. Drishya Bhavam, the phenomenal world. Apashyata, not seeing. Ko means where. Vidhi, the rule of life. Vidhi, or the conduct. Kvacha vairagyam. Again, kva means where. Vairagyam, dispassion. Kva tyaga. Tyag means renunciation. Sham, control of mind. Api means also. Va means or. So rules of life, dispassion, relinquishment, control of mind. What are all these to one who is of the nature of pure effulgence? And who does not perceive the phenomenal world at all? So again, remember, this is for a person who has already reached there. So we should not read it from here that we don't need any rule of conduct or dispassion or renunciation or control of the mind. We do need it. It's almost like if somebody is sick, doctor will tell that person, yeah, you need the medicine. You need a strict diet. You have to be confined in your own room. You might have a nurse to attend. And to somebody, there could be a bed hen also. Can't even go to the bathroom. But what are these things for a person who is healthy? He doesn't need any of that. Okay. So all of these vidhi and vairagya and tyag and sham, all those are prescriptions for us because we are totally drowned in this prakriti. In order to get out of this prakriti, we need to follow those. But over here, he's talking about the wise person, the Mahasya. So if our limited ego is suffering from its ignorance, entangled by the fascinations of the world around us, or chained and shackled by our emotions and passions. Mental agitations are tossing us all around to such a suffering ego or egocentric person. The Upanishads describe all kinds of codes of conduct, contemplation, self-control, all kinds of moral disciplines and ethical livings also. Because that's where we are. We get tossed around. We get disturbed so easily. Sometimes just we are imagining all those disturbances too. So that's why all those disciplines are very, very much needed for us. But to the person who has awakened to the nature of the pure infinite consciousness, he is not even perceiving any world of polarity. So to such a man of complete self-realization, there cannot be any rule of conduct. So it's for that person just to understand it in its true import. His actions are spontaneous. They are divine also. In fact, his actions constitute the very standard which are declared by the scriptures as a dharma. His conduct is a dharma. He is not following a dharma. See, as a student, right now we have to follow dharma. But these kind of perfect yogis, they are establishing dharma. So the men of realization prescribe dharma with their life, by their conduct, and we seekers of perfection must abide and follow the pattern of life and the standard of living that such masters have demonstrated in their life. That's why it's good to have a guru in your life. We can follow what my guru would have done in this kind of a situation, because that is a dharma. So Ashtavakra ji is dissecting the nature of the man of perfection for the education of a brilliant spiritual student who is on the seat of his meditation. And at the same time, he is warning the students like us also. So on one hand, he's telling us that where they stand, and that's where we are going by doing what. So I'm going to stop it here and we can have some discussion. And let me just do the Shanti mantra. Then meanwhile, Jyoti, you can so let me know who's asking the question. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Viseshyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, any question?